YouTube, what's poppin', baby? It's your boy Chef Zay, and welcome back to the channel. You already know what freaking time it is, baby. It's time to get the CrocPot podcast episode 2 on the road. Yesterday, we got into a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Today, we're gonna get into a little bit of that with a little bit of this. But you already know the drill. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel because we are going to be cooking up plenty of content this season on a 2023 Brown season, so you don't want to miss that. And like you know how we do it around here. Don't like the video quite just yet. When you decide that you do like the video, or you find something in the video that you do like, that's when you go ahead and press the like button. I'm not going to ask for it now. I do want you to subscribe now because, hey, why not? You're going to be getting content all year. But with that being said, let's kick it off with something hot. Yesterday, something hot was the WNBA championship. And you know what? We're back in the WNBA championship again because yesterday, Jill Biden, First Lady, came out with one of the dumbest remarks I think I have ever seen. It's not even a remark. It's a proposal in a sense. Like, matter of fact, let's just take a look. Let's just take a look at it. Biden said on Monday that she wishes to invite both LSU and the Iowa Hawkeyes, who were defeated by the Tigers in Sunday's NCAA championship final. I know we'll have the champions come to the White House. We always do. So we hope LSU will come. But I'm gonna tell Joe, I think Iowa should come too because they played such a good game. What? Are you kidding me? I never in my life. And then Angel obviously requote tweets it and goes, a joke. Yeah. That has to be the biggest joke of a comment I have ever heard in my life. Yeah, Iowa, you didn't win, but you guys played such a good game that we're going to invite you too. What? Do you think that if LSU lost and Iowa won, that they would be inviting LSU to the White House because they played such a good game? Give me a freaking break. I have never heard anything like this in my whole life of sports. This is literally glorifying a participation trophy. This is accepting a participation trophy on the highest level in women college sports. Like, you've got to be joking, right? I mean, if you're an Iowa player, how would you feel? Like, do you take it as a sign of disrespect? Do you take it as I don't like? Are you happy that you're getting invited to be runner up? Like, if you're an Iowa player, I'm kind of disrespect. I think I feel disrespected. I mean, I've never heard of a losing team getting this much shine because they played a good game. And Angel has every right to call it a joke, to be upset. If I'm LSU, I'm not even going. Don't even send the invitation. You can have Iowa come. Have the runner-up come because I'm not doing it. So if I'm LSU and if I'm Iowa, I feel disrespected in both regards because, number one, I'm not trying to go to the White House after I just lost. What are we going to talk about? Oh, we played such a good game. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me for dropping 30 and losing by double digits. Like, come on, man. And then if I'm LSU, why would I want to go when y'all can't even give us the proper recognition that we deserve, that we earned? Like, come on, man. Y'all miss me with all of that. But I don't really have too many other thoughts on that. I just thought it would be a good rollover to talk about how basically disrespectful it was of Jill Biden to come in here and offer to invite Iowa in as well. Like, give me a break, dude. But enough of that. Let's transition into the meats and bones of the podcast, and we're gonna get into these questions by you. And you guys know how if you want a topic being discussed on the CrocPot podcast, what do you got to do? Follow Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, subscribe. Put your questions in the comments of one of the posts somewhere whenever I post, and your question could be possibly answered on the next episode of the CrocPot podcast. So for the first question of the day, we are going to kick it off. Actually, let's kick it off with this. This morning, Michael Woods, it was reported by Josina Anderson, that the Browns fear that Michael Woods could have potentially tore his Achilles while working out with Deshaun Watson this offseason. So we already know that this is going to pose the question um, that everyone's going to ask. So we all know what's going to pose the question. Should the Browns go get another receiver? So DG number one fan on Twitter asked, "Do you really think we need to draft a receiver this year?" And this question was asked before we even saw um, this news with Michael Woods going down. And a lot of people are probably going to be like, "Well, who's Michael Woods?" Well, he's a prospect on our team. Last year in camp, he had a tremendous camp. I think he has a very high ceiling from what I saw. Um, but if you look at the roster of this team, this is just some of the guys in the receiving room: Elijah Moore, Amari Cooper, David Bell, DPJ, Goodwin, Grant, Schwartz, Baldwin, Woods, Harley Jr. And a lot of those guys are probably like, well, who the heck is Harley Jr.? Who the heck is Baldwin? Um, I mean, Baldwin he had a couple good catches last year on some big third downs, if I remember correctly. Same with Harley Jr. Not two guys that would, not two guys that would basically uh, take any of the top four receiver spots, but a great depth pieces. Which Michael Woods is a depth piece. Now, in regards to the question of do you really think we need to draft a receiver? Well, I just read off 10 receiver names that are already on the roster that all have talent, and each player offers you something different. Amari Cooper is our number one. DPJ is our number two, maybe number three, depending on how Elijah Moore would be, because Elijah Moore upside is so high. David Bell is the possession receiver that a team needs, a guy that you can just count on all the time to catch the ball. Jakeem Grant, obviously he's going to be more of a special teams guy, but he's still a speedster. Question mark still with Anthony Schwartz as far as what he can be with his potential, and do they find ways to try to utilize his speed as well? There's just a lot of potential in our receiver room, and I think if you go the draft route, that's all you're pretty much going to be getting is potential upside. What could you potentially get out of this guy? Because we don't have a top 15, top 20 pick, or one of the top picks that could get one of these game changer receivers that are going to be in the draft. Granted, it is a deep draft this year for receivers, but I don't see them making a big splash, if that's what you mean, as far as drafting a receiver, like trading up. If there's a guy there that has a first round or second round grade that just so happens to fall into a position that maybe they could trade up, I could maybe see it happening, but I don't see them going above and beyond to waste assets on a potential just on potential, because I think you have enough potential in the receiver room. Now, everyone always wants that number one star guy, and you see all of these receivers coming out in the draft, and they all want the next Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. You always want that when you go into the draft. Hell, even at T. Higgins. I would love to draft a T. Higgins on this team. But again, I just don't think that the Browns have a draft spot to get a guy like that. So, no, I do not think they really need to draft a receiver this year. Do I think they will draft a receiver this year? Yes, I think they'll take a late receiver. They'll take something to just. You can never have too much talent on your team. You'd rather have more talent to decide who you want to keep on the team than have less talent to be like, dang, we got to go pick someone up just to fill the gaps. Um, but I'm perfectly fine with the receiver room that we have, knowing that we have our guy in 4 and Deshaun Watson. So our next question, it's kind of we're kind of gonna. I might irritate some people with this next question because I can guarantee no one wants to talk about this. But this is one of my biggest supporters. She's been here for a while. She always is she's always engaging in the content, and I felt like let's just address it. Only people that have heard my live streams have heard my takes on Baker and stuff like that. So let's entertain it, and then we'll put it to bed because he's no longer a Cleveland Brown. Kate brings up, let's bring it back. I always get her name mixed up. Is it Kate or is it Kat? I'm an idiot because I see cat, but I see the E, so it makes me think it's Kate. Don't be mad at me. It's my fault. It's not your fault. I just how is it Kate or is it cat? I do this every time and I always forget. But anyway, let's bring it back to Baker for a second. He helped us get into the playoffs. Do you think we gave up on him too soon? Do you think we gave up on Baker Mayfield too soon? Man, you know, it's tough to answer that because of how much I loved Baker Mayfield. How much we all loved Baker Mayfield. I mean, hell, he was our first quarterback in my lifetime that gave us the playoffs, that gave us swag, that gave us that confidence, that gave us at some points in 2020 elite quarterback play. I mean, we were Cleveland Browns fans, stomping our feet on the ground saying that we had a top 10 quarterback, and the times that we had with him we'll never ever forget. Like that's what people don't understand with me. It's like I can talk all my stuff about Baker that I want on TikTok and social media, but it's like you guys don't understand what he did for me as a fan. What he gave me as a fan. He gave me memories and moments that I'll never ever forget. Um, so when it comes to this question, you got to kind of put your fandom and your you got to put your heart to the side. And do I think we gave up on him too soon? No, I don't. I really don't. I think sure the situation may have been, you can call it unfair. You can say that maybe we probably didn't handle the situation as best as we should have. As far as how we went about getting Deshaun Watson, but we don't know what was said behind closed doors. We don't know how the front office um, told Baker Mayfield how they would go about doing stuff. Obviously, we've heard what we've heard as far as the rumors is that Andrew Berry did let him know about the situation if they could get one of the top guys at that time, they would go after him. So, um, I think with the Baker Mayfield situation, it's tough because knowing what he gave us, knowing that he took us to the playoffs, knowing after his last season with us that he was battling the injury, I think there's a lot of variables that go into that. And basically what I mean by that is that could the Browns have handled that differently? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, I think the Browns were prepared to ride with Baker through this Deshaun Watson thing. Like, would it have sucked for Baker Mayfield to have to sit the bench as soon as Deshaun Watson was off his suspension? Yes. But if Baker Mayfield would have played his cards just a little bit differently, this is where the ego. I always talk about what Baker Mayfield's biggest downfall is, and it's his ego. There's no doubt in my mind that I think he could be a starter in this league. Um, but I think, but I don't think he understands what type of player that he is in the NFL. You aren't Baker Mayfield in college. You're Baker Mayfield in the NFL. Um, and those are two different players. And I think he still thinks that he's the walk-on Heisman Trophy winner that's just better than everyone because that's just what he's been known. He's shown up and he's just been better. That's basically what his whole career is. Everywhere that he's gone, no one thought he was what he was until he got on the field and just showed you how good he was. And I think it's come to the point where the NFL that that's not gonna work. And I just think that if he just took a step back and just fixed his ego a little bit and brought it down a little bit, I think it would open up so many doors for him as far as what he could be as a quarterback. Because at the road that he's going down right now, I honestly think that it's probably backup. I think we got a Colt McCoy in the works right now, and I think that if he can't figure it out in Tampa Bay, that's probably the road his destination. If he decides to stay in the league that long, like Baker Mayfield, been in the league 10 plus years, journeyman backup, like a solid player that you can plug in, a bridge guy. But back to the Browns, I think that with the window of opportunity that we had, with the play that he showed us in his first 4 years, everyone could say, well, he didn't get a fair chance. He had Hugh Jackson in the beginning, and then he had to go to Freddie Kitchens, and then he only had one healthy year with Kevin Stefanski, and that was COVID year, and then he was injured his fourth year. I mean, everyone's looking for excuses for him. And I get it. Like I said, we love that man. That man gave us the playoffs. He beat the Steelers in the playoffs, bro. I mean, we ain't never forgetting that. But at the same time, how many times have we sat in our seats in front of the TV and there's been 2 minutes left and there's been 3 minutes left or a minute left and the Browns had the ball and we had to count on Baker Mayfield to go out there and drive us down the field and win us a game? Can you sit and think about how many times he's done that for us? Because there's probably only about 2 or 3 times that he's maybe done that. And I believe 2 of those 3 times are against the Bengals. As much as I love him, when it comes down to the quarterback, he needs to be able to put the team on his back. And the Browns got an opportunity to go out there and get a guy that can do exactly that. Sadly, Baker Mayfield could not do that. Baker Mayfield needed every situation to be right. Baker Mayfield needed every variable to go in his favor. Baker Mayfield needed to feel like he was the best guy, which is part of the reason why I think him and Odell didn't work out as much, because you were talking about two guys with two egos, two alpha males clashing, and they couldn't figure out even grounds. And until Baker Mayfield can just figure it out up here, I think we made the right decision. Again, I think we could have handled it a little bit better. Everyone could have handled it better. Baker Mayfield could have held the bridge. Imagine if Baker Mayfield didn't request a trade and he did stay with the Browns and the Browns peeled off 7, 8 wins in the time that Deshaun Watson was suspended. Now not only do you got trade assets, so if you're looking at it from the Browns aspect, but look at it from Baker's aspect. Sure, you had to bite the bullet and you had to do something that you really didn't want to do. But at the end of the day, you just secured yourself another job. You just possibly gave yourself another contract extension. Um, and it would open up the doors to give you a little bit of leverage and say, okay, now I want to be traded. Now get me out of here. You know what I mean? Like, he would have had a little bit of leverage. It may not have been a lot, but he could have played it so much better. And I think that's why you saw no one was jumping on the Baker Mayfield train to go get him, because they saw how he carried himself, the ego that brought him. Like, it's like you'll take that on, like with the Odell. You'll take that on because you know what type of talent that he brings. Terrell Owens, everyone called him a head case. You knew what you were getting when you got Terrell Owens. With all of these players, it's like you'll take Ndamukong Suh. He had a reputation of being a bad guy on the field, but the talent that he offered, it's like you will take Antonio Brown. He got chance after chances because of the talent that he brings. And Baker Mayfield just isn't in that threshold of talent where it's like, okay, is the juice worth the squeeze? Is the juice worth the squeeze? So I think that's enough Baker for now, because I could talk about that man all day, because I do love me some Baker Mayfield and I do appreciate everything that he's done for us, but yeah, we didn't give up on him too soon. He had every opportunity to go out there and get himself a contract, especially in the last year. Even with his injury, he had, I believe, six games off the top of my head that I can think of where he had a chance to go down with game-winning opportunities. And granted, not all of them are his fault. Austin Hooper dropped fourth down passes. Rashawn Higgins, Jarvis Landry, 3 of them off the top of my head. But a lot of those games were at the hands of Baker Mayfield, and he had an opportunity to go down there and put some points up on the board in crucial moments, and he couldn't do it. So, I love you, Baker, but it's faux season. All right. And then for our last question of the day, we got my man Wolf Gamer Boy always coming through, engaging in the content as well. So shout out to my mans. He asks, what is your biggest concern about going into the season? I think my biggest concern going into the 2023 season is the same concerns that I had all throughout last year. Um, Kevin Stefanski. This team will only go as far as he takes us, as he lets us go. I said that in the podcast yesterday. Deshaun Watson can get you there, but Stefanski has to let him get us there. And you know, every game that you watch, you're always, if you lose, you're trying to figure out who are we pointing the finger at, who's to blame. And usually that finger goes back to the quarterback, or it goes back to the defense, or it goes back to not being able to score, whatever the case may be. And a lot of times last year, the reason why we lost a lot of these games was at the hands of coaching. Whether that be our special teams coaching, not being able to get an onside kick, whether that be Joe Woods not knowing how to make in-game adjustments and putting players in the proper position to succeed, or whether that be Kevin Stefanski not giving the ball to Chubb more than 12 times, or like I said, bringing in Jacoby Brissett on fourth downs instead of Watson, letting him get those reps. Um, there's a lot of questionable coaching calls, in-game play calling, situational football. Obviously, no one likes Kevin Stefanski's emotion when it comes to that. I'll try to stomach that, because not everyone is a rah rah guy. Not everyone is, shows their emotion like a lot of coaches do, and that's fine. But when it comes to it hindering your decision making and your in-game adjustments, and the things that we saw from Kevin Stefanski all throughout last year, week in and week out, asking the same exact question of like, what the heck is he doing? I still think that's the biggest concern going in the next year, because that's the one area that we need to see growth in. Andrew Berry went out and got us a receiver, or he went out and got receivers. He went out and got some D tackles. He went out and addressed all the major plugs as far as players go. And yeah, you can still go out and add additions to that. So we're not desperate for talent. We're not, it's not like we're looking for talent for our coach to tap into. We've got all the talent and all the potential any coach could ever want. And I think this is where it scares me the most, because if Kevin Stefanski can't figure it out this year, you know what that means. He's going to get fired. And then guess what? That 4 3 year window kind of got trimmed down again, because now you got to bring in a new coach. Now he's going to bring in a new coaching staff. Now they got to implement new systems. Now they're going to probably bring in their guys as far as players. Now you're rotating in different. It's just a road that I don't want to go down, that I feel like this should have been the year that if we decided to go down that road, this would have been the year. Um, with getting rid of Joe Woods and our special teams, Mike Preferred. Um, if there would have been any time I would have been okay with that experiment, it would have been now. But that window of opportunity is gone. So we're riding with Stefanski. We can't, if we're calling for Kevin Stefanski's job next year, that's not good. It's not good for the short term, and I don't personally think it could be good for the long term, but I don't think it's good for the short to intermediate term, because you're essentially wasting another year hoping that Kevin Stefanski got better and grew and found out how to game manage better. And as fans, we already saw how frustrating that was last year. And I really would hate to come into this year with the full off season of Deshaun Watson and all of the receivers that he has and the collection of talent he has on offense, and Jim Schwartz having a full off season to do what he wants with his defense, and they have their whole coaching staff going into the draft all collectively ready to make the decisions that they want to make in the draft. And I just think that you got to figure it out. Like, that's basically what it's boiling down to. You have to figure it out this year, or next year. I don't know how I'm going to be able to just sit here and continue to feed y'all hope and feed y'all just positive energy and with this team, because I'm going to understand how draining it's going to be if we're sitting here with another 7-10 record or 8-9 record. Like, what are we doing? Because if we have an 8-9 record, people will be getting fired, players will be getting moved, and that's pretty much what it goes into what's my biggest concern again, because if the coaching isn't where it needs to be, that means our record isn't going to be where it needs to be, which brings in the big question. Are your stars happy? Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward, Watson, Chubb, are these guys going to be looking to get their head out of Cleveland? Because I tell you what, if Myles Garrett wastes another year, he's already been giving off that energy where it's like, man, I got to get up out of here. Like, he hasn't said it. I don't think he ever will say it. But I'm an actions guy. I can read people very well. And Miles Garrett knows his stinks now. He knows he's that guy. He knows he has a Hall of Fame career on the way. And I know the Browns got lucky with Joe Thomas and him wanting to be a Cleveland guy for his whole career. I'm telling you now, Miles Garrett's not going to be that guy. It may seem like he could be that guy, and I think he could ultimately spend his whole career in Cleveland. But if we don't figure this out, Miles Garrett's gone. He's going to go out there and he's going to try to win a ring wherever that may be, whether it's in Cleveland or somewhere else. But yeah, that's pretty much my biggest concern for this year. It's just the coaching, which translate are the stars happy because, like I said, man, we only got about a 2 or 3 to 4 year window with the collection of talent that we have, and I don't think we'll ever have as much talent as we have right now. So the Browns got to figure it out, man. But yeah, that's gonna do it for today's episode of the CrocPot podcast. So make sure you guys make sure you guys like the video, subscribe, because we're gonna be trying to drop videos every day or every other day, or at least once a week. So you will be getting the content, and you already know, baby. Here we go, Brownies. Here we go. Hoo, hoo.